Hey, it's Wednesday, February 12th, and is our government trying to kill us, or are we overreacting? So I was watching the news the other day, and I was just kind of listening to what the person was saying. I'm not even going to talk about the specific newscast that I was watching. It was just the way that the newscaster was like talking about the situation, and they were just being really overly negative about everything that was being discussed. And I was talking to a friend about it, and I was like, why do they do that? Why do you never, see newscasts like, oh, the fireman saved a kitty from a tree or whatever? It's always negative things, and I understand it's important that we understand and like are knowledgeable about what's going on in our government, in our country, and in our specific states and communities. But I really do think that there needs to be some accentuation on the positives. That being said, in today's video, I think I'm going to talk a little bit about changes to the government and to the United States and a little bit of Ohio stuff. When we talk about things that are happening like in our economy and how we're getting less jobs, and the changes to insurance and Obamacare, and just having different and having the changes that are being basically forced upon us, even though whether or not they were voted for or the way that the votes came out, our democracy decided that this was what was going to change. I am a American citizen and a legal resident of Ohio. I pay rent for my place. I pay my internet bill. I buy my own groceries. I'm independent. And I have insurance, health insurance through my family. But since I'm 19, I obviously probably don't make a substantial amount of money because I'm a child, basically. I also have CareSource as like an add-on to my insurance, which is technically in the grouping of insurance covers of Medicaid, which is great. It's a great program. If you don't have insurance, if you can't afford insurance, if you're under the minimum wage line, or if you're on disability or SSI or anything like that, you are eligible for Medicaid, which is an insurance plan that not only pays for your care but also takes care of your copay and oftentimes also pays for your prescriptions. And that's great. I'm not on Medicaid, I'm on CareSource, so I use my family's insurance. And then any copay or prescriptions also gets covered by CareSource because I have some withstanding medical conditions. And I think that's great. I love the fact that the people that can't pay for their own care can still receive that care, and I think that's really important. The issue is what changed back in October when Medicaid, or when Obamacare came about, when it became a law that you have to have health care, which I think having healthcare is good, but I think being forced to have it is not the idea. If you don't have healthcare, you either have to get your own healthcare or you have to pay to be a part of Obamacare, which sucks because if you don't have the money to pay for Obamacare, if you don't have the money to pay for your own insurance, how are you going to have the money to pay for Obamacare? Also, if you don't pay for Obamacare because you don't have the money, which is the most likely case scenario there, you are forced to pay like a tax deductible or something where you have to pay to basically not have insurance. Either you pay to have insurance or you pay to not have insurance. And if you can't pay to have insurance, not only will you not get insurance, but you have to pay for the fact that you don't have insurance. And I just think this is not fair. I think it's basically a way to force people to have insurance, and whether or not that's right or wrong, it really doesn't matter that much because it's draining us individually. I think when people talk about politics, they talk about how can we better our community, how can we better our society, how can we change our economy, because obviously we're not doing super great right now, and they think, I know, let's make everybody have insurance, it'll cover everybody, so we will have less death cases, and it'll just be great. And that's not how it's going to happen because, they're worried about long term, what's going to keep our country from falling into, a massive debt that we're not going to be able to recover from. And I think it's really important that we keep that in mind. But I also think that we're going about it in the wrong way, because if our citizens are going broke because we are being forced to pay for insurance or being paid to not be able to pay for insurance, we're losing money. And yes, our government may or may not be gaining money from that, but that doesn't really matter in the long run, because the longer we keep this up, the more likely it's going to be that us as citizens are not going to have money to pay for things in the future, like insurance, like internet, like rent, like groceries. And I just think that's a big problem, where our government is focused way too much right now on the immediate need, which obviously that's a substantial concern. If people don't have insurance and can't receive the care they need for longer term illnesses or, primary care physicians, it's a problem, and I get that. But if we're only focusing on what's happening right now, we're setting ourselves up for failure in the future. And I think the fact that I'm going to give away a little bit of my political standpoint here. I think the fact that we have a huge poverty rate in America right now, compared to, well, it's gone down actually in the last couple years, but it's still much higher than it should be for a country as advanced as America. And I think that has a lot to do with our government standpoint. But the fact that we have so many homeless people, so many people that can't afford their own food, so many people who not only don't have health care, but don't have access to community clinics and stuff like that. And people are dying and people are suffering, and our children aren't able to go to school or receive health care. I think it's very, very sad, because we could change some of these things. I mean, and we're taking the money that we could be spending on these families and on these children and on foster care situations and stuff like that, and we're using that money to send troops to wars that really aren't any of our business. And that's not to say that we shouldn't, stand up for, what we believe in, and for other countries that may not be as successful as us right now. But I think we aren't going to, if we don't take care of ourselves first, we're going to have trouble taking care of people later. It's like, like they always say when you're on an airplane, secure your mask first, because if you die, you're not going to be able to help your children. And I think when you talk about our economy, it's a very similar idea. So I know for me, next time I vote for anything, I'm going to be way more knowledgeable about where I'm putting my vote. I didn't vote this past election because I wanted to, and I didn't even actually register, because my thought was, I don't know enough about what's going on to make an educated vote, and I wasn't about to jump in as a single party voter or a single issue voter, and that's it's very important to me that I know what I'm voting for, and I wish I would have been able to get more information on our candidates and on the issues, but that's just not how it worked out. But this next election, I'm feeling very dedicated to trying to understand what's happening in our government, in our economy, in our systems, and in the way things are working right now, because we're obviously not doing very well. I mean, obviously we're not doing horribly. We're one of the best off countries. My dad said, oh, we're the best country in the world, which, I mean, maybe in terms of economy, but our school systems kind of suck, which I will talk about in a later video that I plan on making. So I think as we get closer to the election, if I'm still doing the video blog thing, I'm going to talk a lot about politics from both standpoints and a non-biased standpoint. I think we need to be more knowledgeable about what we're doing right now. And as much as the government thinks they know what they're doing, and they might know what they're doing, I think we need to be knowledgeable about what's happening. And I think we're not. And I think that's sad. Thanks for listening, guys. And I will see you later.